So we're ready. So, ladies and gentlemen, this is the last panel. The topic is quite new for today. We're going to talk about AI and big data and how they can improve our success as freight forwarder or the freight forwarder industry. So what I got today is that everyone is really enthusiastic about AI. Oh, this is my impression, I mean, no? And this is interesting because we came out from a period where we had a lot of crises, actually. Okay, so the pandemic crisis, war crisis, shortage of raw materials. So we have a lot of disruption today. And let's hope that this is a positive disruption. I mean, the implementation and the adoption of new technologies like AI or like big data technology. So first of all, I want to understand what is your position about this. It's a real positive disruption. So if you can please have a round table about it. Maybe we can start from Vanessa, since we are a lot of gentlemen, just one lady on the panel. So I want to hear from you. What do you think about it?
So I think it's a great opportunity to actually look at a problem that we have for years already, and that is about data quality, data sharing, transparency that we're looking at. So if in the far future, maybe in the near future, we manage to overcome all those fears first and really start kind of having a full transparency, there's a huge potential. And if this is kind of the topic that we need to move forward in all those other topics, the ground topics, I think it's great to start with. And I see that also in rail, so mostly it's more or less people-based business still. And I think in logistics we have a lot of crucial areas that is still people-based, especially in the decision-making. And if we look at those areas, AI will not be really helpful because without any kind of data, they can't learn anything. So there's a lot of stuff that we need to work on, and it puts a spotlight on, I think, a painful stuff that we have for years already. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, okay. So what a tough start with some critics. Yeah, it's cool. And Awad, what about you? What do you think? Is that the solution, AI?
If you bear in mind my age, at 62, I should be saying I'm frightened of it, but I'm not. Surprisingly, I'm actually very much on board. I believe logistics is an incredibly people-based business, but that doesn't mean that we should in any way ignore the opportunities presented to us by artificial intelligence and big data. And I think we need to find a way to embrace this as an absolute positive way forward and not be fearful that it means we're going to lose really good jobs, that we're going to lose a lot of, we're going to save workload, but we're going to be doing more intelligent work, and we're still going to have the people's business. That doesn't go away. So I think the challenge in the future is not to fear it, to embrace it, and see how it can help us. And I think we'll find that it takes away some of the tedious, the more monotonous work, and enables us to focus on the fine-tuning and the optimizing. And so, from that perspective, I'm an optimist, and I'm looking forward.
Okay, thank you, Schoit.
Thank you very much. I'm coming from the academic sector, from the universities, and of course I have to say that yes, I'm very positive because for the researchers needs the money and needs the work. Anyway, I think the AI showed in the last years that there's a lot of application, new application, and for example 1 or 2 years ago maybe it was in the science fiction, but nowadays everyday life we are using all kind of occasion the AI solutions, and I think the logistics sector is one of the best sector that always use always the best technologies and best solutions, and why not? So I think for the logistics sector the AI will help for much more in the later.
Good afternoon, everyone, and thanks for being with us still. I've been within the industry for 20 years, and it might sound silly, but actually the first thing that I've heard in the past when I joined the industry was it was all about the visibility. And it's 20 years after, we still are talking about the visibility, and I think it is absolutely positive thing that we are moving forward. I still think there are plenty of risks in terms of data quality that Vanessa mentioned. I think I would extend that to the industry standards and actually understanding certain data as the same data, which is a challenge in every single space. But given the pre-pandemic development of the chat or GPT-2, then GPT-3, and then everything that did happen through the pandemic is just accelerating and making us all imagine what are the applications, what are the use cases. So absolutely a positive sign, and I think that it is the topic, as all of the panels before has proven already, that we cannot miss at any single topic.
Yeah, so we get every kind of shadow in the air. Okay, that's really interesting. So, Vanessa, you're CIO and CDO at Ride Cargo Group, and you took the lead almost 8 years ago, the digitalization program in the company. Can you tell us something? What are you doing in this field, and how you feel we are close to have something real, some real results of application of big data and any kind of this technology, like for example AI, but not just this?
So I think we started with the groundwork, as I said. So we started 8 years ago. Rail Cargo Group, I think, operates in 13 countries to run and operate trains, and in 18 countries also to be kind of rail logistics provider. So even within our company, we have a bit of an ecosystem with different cultures and different data standards and everything. And that's what we're experimenting. So we're trying to get transparency in. We're trying to get some standards in, even if it's not an international standard yet, but at least within our company, trying to make sure that in total we're talking about the same thing, even if different parts are involved. So we started in the sales environment and going step by step through the process till the end. AI, so it's very new to that. So we really started with just making sure that collaboration is possible. Language is a big topic. So on AI level, that's one of the main fields that we're experimenting, trying to make sure that within this ecosystem we are able to communicate without using English in between, but everyone in their own languages and still understanding each other. So this would be, from my experience, a crucial part in supply chain. Getting some misunderstandings out. And of course, what we're trying to, in the recent projects that we started, is trying to understand more and more what kind of data we have. So kind of prediction of volume, or kind of translating volume prediction to the real end-to-end transport relation. Yeah? So things that are manually done from experience by now, so we try to approach by the data we have. And of course, we learned it the hard way. It's not structured enough. Yeah? So it's a lot of fragments or kind of structures that changed over a year. So you need to put a lot of effort in understanding what those data is telling you, because of course AI can only learn and reproduce about data. So everything that is not structured in the data, especially the cause of a decision, for example, can't be learned. So it sounds fancy. It's great to launch a project like that, but it's hard work to get there, and that's why we're still kind of on a few levels, on a ground level, still trying to get an idea of what could be possible, at least on smaller scales.
That was exactly what I mentioned. It's like, even within a single company, you have different standards, and you are trying to do a single standard, then just, it is blowing everything off when you add different companies and their own languages and their own definitions. And then you add different modality. Yeah? Then you're going from rail to road to even oversea or even air freight. So if we talk about supply chain and the power of AI, it's a global supply chain, right? And then we need to work all together. That's the fun part that needs to come up, I think.
Yeah, so for sure that's about standards. I'll give you one number, and I want to use Sebastian to help us understand if we got any solution somewhere. Adoption rate, okay? So recent research showed that just 12% of supply chain professionals use this kind of technology. They really use this kind of technology.
Meaning ChatGPT or...
Yeah, AI technologies, yeah. So the point about this low adoption rate is about cost implementation, technology understanding, standards, data quality. What do you think is the problem about it? It's just about they don't know how to use it, maybe?
I think it depends on the company to company, obviously, but in my personal opinion, the biggest challenge here is the data quality or data integrity, actually. So, even in the big companies nowadays, they do struggle to have the same picture out of the data and make these algorithms working on top of that. So if you ask like a, top 3 of the freight forwarders, it would be the AI project will take a year, but actually the AI thing in that is a month. All the rest is preparing the whole ecosystem and the data actually to feed these algorithms. And it's not it's like we look at AI as a ChatGPT, which was trained by OpenAI, with all of us giving an input into that, and we are talking about this, large language models, which is like a common thing because we all talk. And then it's still better in English than different languages, but it's been trained for a long time, meaning 5 years, within the mind-blowing amount of data. And it is like a common standard, right? How we talk, we understand each other. While if you add different layers of data and then you got different databases, different data lakes, and you are trying to make a conclusion of those not really comparable data, you are getting into huge trouble. And in my opinion, that's the biggest challenge. And I even question this 12%, unless it's really including the ChatGPT as playing or making some marketing and this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Make it a little bit more complicated. Even that 12% maybe doesn't understand real deeply what are they doing with the artificial intelligence. Am I too strong with this affirmation? I mean, is AI something we really understand, or is some kind of buzzword like, no? But in another panel, I heard the word blockchain, okay? You remember the hype about the blockchain. There's, on one moment, a few years ago, everything sounded like, okay, blockchain will solve this. Okay, will solve how does it work, what it is. Okay, nobody understands it. What about artificial intelligence? Do we really understand how it works? Do we really understand how it uses data and how it can generate solution, or how much is just replicated solution that already are existing in the environment, in the data that the artificial intelligence will utilize for the applications?
In my opinion, like a normal user, we don't understand it. And it's like the amount, at least in this, let's say, large language models where we have normal users having fun, or using the playground. It is the playing. This name is for purpose. But even if I ask like software engineers who are trying to get to the certain results out of these algorithms, there's hundreds of people who are working on dozens of those algorithms. You have Llama, which was mentioned on one of the panel today, which you can just host on your premise and use only for your data. You have Cloud, you have Perplexity, which is kind of a combination of all of it, OpenAI. Each of those is working differently, and we are learning by doing. It is the wrong way of actually learning it, because then you can see in this internet that there are so many, let's say, self-named experts explaining how it works, but they don't know it themselves as well. They know some use cases, and these use cases might be working, but then there's a matter of single word and it's not working because it just went to different path of how this algorithm works. So it's probably the biggest warning from my side is whatever you are playing with, just be cautioned that it is not ready to automatically being published or used or whatever. It is always requiring your common sense to actually read it and check. Yeah. Maybe someone else. What's your opinions?
From the academic view, I think I agree with you. I think it's a normal user don't need the background of the rules. What is the rules in the background of the AI algorithms? There's a special mathematics and researchers and software developers who knows the background, the machine learning and other things. I think it's a normal users for the logistics and any industry partners. We have to learn to use it, and how can we use it in this way? For example, now we are maybe talking about the global logistics and the big players here in this conference, but the most of the problem is about the SMEs, the small companies, the last mile deliverers, and so on. So, for example, in our country, there's a special program, the European Digital Innovation Hub for SMEs, and now we're starting a special program for AI development program and for the SMEs, and now we are talking the small companies about the digitalization, and we are trying to analyze them, what is the good and what is not good in this background of these companies, and we are trying to find some methods and some good application for them, which can be developed for them. So I think it's we have to go down to the starting level for the companies, and because they are not in the they are not in the big level in this knowledge, and that's why without the small companies it's not possible to use the global logistic systems, and I think this is the very important in the next few years.
If I can just say that 12% using AI is for me a shocking statistic. I'm amazed that it's so low. If I just look from a personal perspective at how I organize my life and how I think many of us organize our lives, I'm completely dependent on multiple apps to help me optimize my time. I fly regularly, and I check in Opodo or other tools. I take the train regularly. I check in VOR or some other app, and I take a bike with Nextbike, and I know where to go to get the bike, and I find it's fantastic, all those things. And if somebody calls me up and asks me to tell them what's the best way to get from Shanghai to Düsseldorf, I have no idea, but I know where to go.
But you have route scanner.
Huh?
You have route scanner, right?
Yeah, thank you. So yeah, of course I'm plugging that. But you know, that's a serious investment that we've made. Port of Rotterdam has deep pockets and can make investments that don't always require a commercial payback as fast as many commercial entities do. We're very privileged in that sense, and we feel therefore a responsibility and an obligation to step up to the plate and to deliver where commercial companies maybe struggle to make that initial investment. So we are putting phenomenal amounts of money into visibility, certainly in the tools that I mentioned earlier in my presentation, and thank you for remembering RoopScanner. And
it's a great tool, you know.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you appreciate it, and I can only recommend that we all try to go beyond the easy step. In the past, I think it's already 20 years ago that I last went to a travel agent. I don't go to travel agents. I've dispensed with travel agents. Yeah, that's over. And similarly, I'm ready to make decisions on logistics, on supply chain decisions, without having to go to another expert. I can find that information readily because somebody's put together an algorithm that's connected thousands of companies together that helps us to identify what makes sense. And yes, if the data in is shit, then the data out will be shit. So you have to get it right. You have to have a certain leap of faith that what's in there is good. But then I think we should try to trust it.
I think the AI as a term is such a huge thing that it's hard to actually understand what this 12% is.
It's like kind of inventing a car, right? So if you look at the dynamic, it's a bit like the invention of a car, with all the fears and all the driver's license that need to be done, and all of the security aspects that need to be built up afterwards. So there are a lot of similar things, although a car, you can kind of touch it, you can see it, while AI is somewhere. So I think it's a bit the same journey that we're going through, and AI projects, if you do them right, are not only kind of critical because you don't know if it's a success or not, but they are quite expensive. Yeah? So it's not even the blockchain projects that might have started left and right were not as expensive as a real AI project would be if you start. So there's a lot of fear if you don't really know how to use this tool. You would not use a car to go down the street. You'd use the car more to go to the next city or something. So I think we need a lot more information about what is AI and when do I think of this tool? When could it be efficient? What kind of checkboxes do I have to go through before starting? What kind of topics? It needs to be a high-scale thing, nothing that I do 3 times a day, but 1,000 times a day. Yeah. Otherwise, it's a lot more expensive than kind of the return you get afterwards. So we need to get used of thinking differently of projects before we start them. And I think that's the main barrier right now to get the first step in. So some companies have money or ideas or even data and are trying to. Others do not and kind of are more resistant. And then there's the fear of, where is my data going? Yeah, the fear of who is using it. If I feed it once in this algorithm, then everyone can access it. So there's a lot of fear behind, a bit like with the car. And I think we need to get more transparency in there. We need to get more use cases. We need to understand it a bit more. We need to grow into it, actually. So this will raise the 12%.
Thank you. Howard, let's get back to real cases. So what kind of expectation do you have as a, representative of a port like Rotterdam port, a huge one, the biggest one in Europe for container movement? I guess that you expect a lot of improvements from this kind of technology, especially on an industry like the container. Maybe in dry bulk industry, you cannot expect as much as an improvement, but when you have fixed dimension and really challenging timing for load and unload cargos and etc., what are your expectations for these technologies?
I have complete belief that we need to continue to invest and advance our appetite for AI. The sheer volume of data that we have is not digestible by normal human beings of any level of education. It's just too much, and we should not expect to be able to digest all the information that AI can help us, or that big data can help us with. So I think that, as I say, we must embrace. Somebody raised the point earlier today that ports are operating in isolation. We would rather see standardized solutions globally. I buy into that. I subscribe to that. I believe that that's the right way. And some of the things we're doing are indeed global in their application. Some of the things we do are just isolated for our port. Port base is Rotterdam focused. I can't tell Hamburg or Koper or Antwerp what to do with their own stakeholder community. I just don't know how to do that. We could share the algorithms, we could share the concept with other ports, but we can't force others to use it. Yeah? So that's a challenge, and I'm keen to hear from anybody here at the on the panel or in the audience who, if they see opportunities for standardizing globally, because I think that but that's a long stretch. Yeah. But within what we can do in our market, we obviously are committed to improving the local scenario. And when it comes to a global routing option there, we have gone global. Yeah. So then we're not looking at it from a Rotterdam perspective. Then you will get a global neutral view, which I think is, fascinating in itself. I think it's amazing that a port actually is prepared to invest in a product that doesn't necessarily route cargo through its port. It might actually promote a competitor port. That is an amazing statement. How many companies here are ready to promote something that actually will help the competitor? Yeah. So
I will answer you. The successful ones.
Okay. Well, there you go. And that shows that there's a leap of faith from the Port of Rotterdam. We're actually not frightened to share data that sometimes makes us look worse than our competitor, because we want to do the right thing. So I don't want to steal cargo from a port where I'm going to raise the emissions because I've managed to somehow divert that cargo from its natural, better route. Yeah? That's not our interests. And we've actually got to a point now, we used to beat our chests about how big we are and how we're growing. Well, we are big, yes, and we are growing, but it's not our sole ambition. Our ambition is to grow meaningfully, intelligently, and responsibly and sustainably. Yeah? And those are critical messages which I hope I don't sound too, what's the word? Scheinheilig here. I don't, want to go, but I really believe we want to do the right things and grow sustainably. And sometimes it means we will not be targeting cargo. We will not be in the prime position. And I think that's a hell of a statement.
The resources are limited, so we will anyhow come to that point, yeah, very quickly.
And I wasn't laughing at that. I really meant it. Successful companies.
No,
you are growing. The awareness of Rotterdam, Netherlands as a whole, and bringing new companies into.
I understood what you said, and I think I took it that way. That we do see it as magnanimous, or I think is the word. We're ready to share. We think we've got something good here, and we want it to be embraced. And other ports are embracing. For example, Route Scanner is being promoted by Port of Antwerp, is being promoted by Port of Amsterdam. So it is a tool that others can get on board with and say, yes, this is a globally, universally useful product. It's not something they cooked up in the kitchen in Rotterdam that's going to help them in Rotterdam only. No, it absolutely isn't. It's going to help the world. That's a big ambition. It's a big statement, but I stand by it. Yeah.
Wow. So let me add another point. Yeah. As advisor, often I talk with my clients about new technology and adoption, this kind of technologies, and there's always a question with a really hard answer. Okay, you talk about competitors, yeah, but sometimes we have to talk about clients and customers. How much should be aware the customer that we are using their data within this kind of technology? How much we must, let me say, make explicit their information, contracts, name, numbers, figures are within a black box they are not in control of. I want to start.
Honestly, my point of view on that is that, and it's missing on the market at the moment to that scale, but my opinion is that the customer should have this decision voice to actually decide what is visible, what is used for the aggregation, what is used in detail, or even, just like unleash the data for consulting company as yours, right? We are starting the project, there's the data that is in third-party hands. The full detail is in somewhere, but we allow this company to use it because we're starting the optimization project in a space, whatever. Why? I'm not used. I will not say X because it's going to be SpaceX, but yeah. That's my personal opinion. I know it doesn't work that way yet, but it's a matter of actually how most of the technologies were built. You know, I guess that OpenAI as a foundation would be probably the closest as an organization to do it that way, but it was never their intention. I think we are a little bit biased in this area as Europeans, that we are, let's say, more sensitive about the usage of the data, while in the US it's more a little bit more freedom about it.
We as a university, we are not only researchers, but we are also consultancies also for the companies. We had a lot of contract work with different companies, and of course the data protection is maximum is the main issue when we are working with them, and we had a lot of big data and special research for them. For example, how can we realize some corruption in the transport, the fuel corruption, fuel stealing from the big companies, and we are using big data, and we are making different Gauss distribution from the data, and we using the AI. How can we find which truck and which place there's something wrong and other distribution than the normal distribution? So it's, yes, we are using that data, of course, and of course this is absolutely the first thing what we are working for the companies, that this is the trust, and they trust us, and it's a special contract with them. And it's interesting what about Howard says about the other point of view, the transparency about the data and the big data, and I think this is the future, but it's absolutely very difficult. It's a lot of difficulties. How can we solve the transparencies of the big data from the different companies? Yes, I think we need somehow find a good solution for the globally. I don't know, please, Howard, what do you think?
Well, if I can come back to the remark about resistance to usage of data. And there I share a concern. I've seen examples where customers say, I'm sorry, what do you need? You want all of that what on earth do you want all of that information for? It's like I'm asking them to stand up naked on stage. You know, I'm not. I'm asking for... We have a massive problem in Port of Rotterdam and in many ports with drug smuggling. And to address that, we try to understand everything that's happening with cargo moving through our port. So we want to know who's moving, who the consignee is, who the shipper is, who's in the intermediary. Not because we're interested in understanding their personal data in any intimate way or in any inappropriate way. We need to know who's behind that move, so that when we open up the container and it's full of, illegal product, or cocaine or whatever, that we know who's done it, and we can address it. And we're meeting resistance. You know, there's a tremendous organized crime network that's working through Rotterdam, working through Antwerp and other ports, and it's a big problem for society as a whole. Yeah, it's destroying lives. It's destroying the fabric of society. You know, we've got young children jumping over fences to get into containers because they can't be punished, etc. You know, all sorts of real social problems happening because of drugs. And then we're trying to address it by demanding upfront information on personal data. And of course there's a resistance because people think we're going to misuse it. How can I convince them? It's you know, so maybe 80-90% get on board and they say yeah, but there's 10% who've said no, we're not giving it to you. I'm going to go to another port. Yeah? That's an expensive process. Yeah?
That's an expensive cargo, you know, they can afford it.
But even on a smaller scale, so even if it's not kind of on those global topics that need to be tackled, I think would help society a lot. Even on a smaller scale, kind of giving information is always kind of a what for. And at the end of the day, it's kind of getting society regulated properly, being more secure, or I think on the long run, we will come to that point pretty quickly, using resources wisely. Yeah? Latest at that point, we need to share. Yeah? We need to know exactly who's doing what kind of capacity we have where. We can't hide it anymore because then it's inefficient per definition. So I think that those kind of topics, if they're hurting enough, then there is no question why we need those data for. But we're not there yet on all levels.
And I think it's like a whole supply chain. It's managing the exceptions. Yeah, so it's like nobody actually needs detailed information of every single container. It's only about this one that is really outstanding from the whole group. So I think, in the unsensitized manner, you can actually manage all flows. In the same way, you could use the data, for example, to evaluate 10T investment infrastructure projects, while when you're facing this particular challenge that you already see that there is something wrong with a single container, then there should be a mechanism to actually, provide this data to you. And you as a port authority or the container terminal or anybody else should have an option within the police, with a duties authority.
On exceptional
just to
basis.
See that. Yeah.
But who has access to all those data? I think that's the main question behind. Yeah. So I think for the single cases, most of the people would agree. But
I see a question on the board.
Yeah, exactly. If you see the first question from Paul, the question is data protection. We really can see the data, acres risk. Perhaps companies are afraid. Who dare to give an answer?
It's everything, basically. There are hackers. We've seen a lot of, let's say, hacking attacks on biggest, right? Miskolc Line, the MSCs, that everyone. It's like, sometimes it looks like a coincidence almost, because the one was more about attacking the Ukrainian bank in 2015, as far as I remember, where Miskolc Line, I think, was like attacked by coincidence, but it was heavy disruption. I mean, systems going down within such a scale, come on, it's something that you cannot really get out of this problem alone. So in most of the cases, the whole industry is helping, but still, those are the hackers. And I think we've heard from Daniel as a representative, as a beneficial cargo owner on the second panelist, on the second panel, that he was afraid of actually giving too much data because he would be potentially losing the advantage in negotiation. So there are different scenarios for that. At the end, the data needs to be secured. Otherwise, it might put a company at risk, the cargo at risk, or even, overriding the data would secure this kind of accidents with cocaine, as Howard has mentioned. So, yeah, different scenarios.
I would reply, so why do we think that data is more secure in our system than it is in others? Yeah, so I think the higher risk is a misusage of decision-making through AI, but not the data itself. So accessing the data that's what hackers are doing every day to each and every company around. So yes, it might be a bit more secure left than right, but I think it's not about kind of the leaking of data. I think the main risk, if we go through AI and kind of trust on decision-making based on AI, is more what happens if a hacker managed to train with fake data that is leading to false decision or to kind of not the right part or even illegal decisions in the background. So I think it's more still the fear of what could happen to this thing that might be a very important thing in our life, as every one of you probably has a car at home. Yeah, so if it's an essential part of your life, there is a misusage that might happen in the background. And yes, we need to tackle this, and I think there is no answer yet, fully at least, for this topic.
Yeah, so we delved into the main concerns, data security, privacy, and there's a third one, human touch. And I guess that the question that we got for the audience is in this sense. As you mentioned, resources are limited. Based on your current knowledge, where do your company or the entity you represent put more resource? People or system?
think both.
Same here, actually, because I think the more we have systems to support, the more we need also people to tackle exceptions, to also kind of be more active on specific tasks. So we have it on both sides, especially if now in this phase where you try to get all the experience into a system, you need more people in total to get to that point. So right now, I think it's probably even more people than system to really make it happen.
Yeah, we talk more about systems because there are a lot of technology conferences and there's a huge potential in the systems that everybody's like feeling, right? I think it is like a common thing for every industry that these companies, they're just built up by people. And the systems might empower them to do more efficient, take care of their customers better, and so on. But at the end, people are more important, even though if we think that there are a lot of resources put into the systems, I think if we compare it to the wages, we might end up with completely different view on that.
And the people might be higher skilled also. So look, in the future, you need to invest more to have more global skills, so more technical skills, where on a few jobs right now, it's not necessary, but it will be more and more. So I think you need to invest a lot more to get the profile that is actually working in this environment.
Yeah, cool. So let's try to catch up. Time is running up. So let's think about the implementation of these systems. Your experience, this system are add-on in your current framework, in your current system, in your current technology, or they need you to reshape everything and to reroute everything from people, from people knowledge, people learning, up to the system you're using. And not just, I'm not talking about software, I'm talking also infrastructure and everything that goes on.
But AI focused, you mean?
Yeah.
Like solutions?
Yeah.
Even without AI focus, it's a reshaping, actually.
Yeah, but
the longer the history of the company, the more it's a reshaping.
It's such a huge topic, the implementation, that it's like, we've seen a lot of failures. A lot of failures. I think that one of the best known in Europe would be most probably implementation of SAP in DHL, right? SAP, well known, DHL spent like more than $200 million and then killed the project as a failure. So, it's a huge thing. But I think within the AI as a main topic for this panel, the things are getting even more tricky because, as mentioned at the very beginning, there's no properly working algorithm without data, and the data itself is really dirty. The quality, the quality itself is one piece, but the other piece is actually if it exists at all. Because it's like really for some of the shipments you might have a full picture or even overwritten some of the pieces because it happens, and for others you might not have the full picture. And then how to really compare those, how to drive the conclusions out of it. I'm not talking about the ChatGPT here, but what would be the expected ETA, for example, of the container or the shipment? It's not the hard modeling to actually drive, the algorithms to give you the expected ETA based on your historical data. In my personal opinion, companies who are collecting these ETAs for last 4 years are even in a better position given how many black swans we had and how many additional factors might be taken into the consideration. But the question is, if this data is really connected to this additional circumstances, that's usually where the data is completely missing. It's like given the Ever Given stuck in the Suez Canal. There was non-position in the database or the TMS. There was Ever Given stuck in the Suez Canal. So based on this data, the algorithms would say that the transit time got 2 weeks longer. But it didn't. It was like a single accident. And these accidents, there are plenty of those. So then it's a matter of actually how to apply all of that into the business cases, not to get this algorithms tweaked by this single accidents. So it is super complicated in terms of how those algorithms work on top of the data, which is not quality enough, let's say high quality enough.
I think it's depend on also the companies, the company measure. Small company maybe can be more flexible than the bigger. And of course, the big companies, they have a lot of data and maybe they are collected proof the data, but sometimes it's very difficult to reshape the structure behind the system in the big companies. I think much more flexibility can give for the small innovative companies. They can reshape its system, and I think it's much better for the later, and that's why maybe it's a good opportunity for them. But anyway, the data is the base for everything.
I would even enlarge your question. We need to reshape the way we look at projects. Yeah, so taking kind of the Rotterdam example, if we think kind of from an end-to-end perspective, if we think from a customer perspective, if you really think through the real benefit that could be in the entire supply chain and not just isolated, and then you start to reshape everything in the background too. Yeah, so I think that's where we should start. We have a lot of customer projects that prove that this is the way to go because that's where the benefit is. It's always kind of on the handover point that we lose most of the efficiency.
Okay, so thank you. So I will use these final minutes just to hear from every one of you which are the takeaway from this day and from this panel. If you change your mind on something, and what you should tell people in the audience as our final takeaway regarding the AI and the big data in this industry.
I would encourage everyone to start getting engaged in the space. That's for sure. And you know, it doesn't necessarily mean creating the big data out of nothing, because it won't deliver any good results. But there are definitely areas in every single company that you can play with this Gen AI, the large language models, algorithms that are going to be just, you know, adding better access to your employees to the certain instructions, or helping the onboarding, doing like a, you know, company-based assistant to answer all of the questions that someone might have based on the knowledge of the whole organization. And it's not a rocket science, but it's going to be already helpful. It might you know, generate some time savings at the end, cost savings. So at the very end, net profit growth that I guess everybody's interested in.
It might come up with very contradictive things that we try to push through our employees, actually. So if you go deeper in, that's one of the learnings that might come up.
Yeah, it always depends on how you do that, right? It's like even those. That's when I was answering your question. If somebody knows what they are doing within this algorithms, they don't. But there are ways of actually doing it in a way that they are not going to hallucinating. Yeah, but it's always better to use your source, let's say, of the knowledge and add the algorithm on top of that. Otherwise, you made up with everything, you know, like everything, which is super scary, and I wouldn't recommend using it.
Shai.
Okay, from the university, we have a lot of work project with companies, small companies, big companies, and most of them want to be digitalization of their processes and some technologies, and using some AI. For example, some interesting things when we are working with companies who would like to scanning image scanning of the products, which is it's a special agricultural product. It's how goods, the quality of the products. So now we are making a special AI solution for them, how they can follow the product quality, and also the other is the track and tracing solutions, and also the digital twin. So now we have a special simulation technology where we are follow the whole logistic process, and in the reality we can follow with IoT technologies their processes. So many route scanning, route optimization, and so on and so on. So I think there's an endless different solution for the companies, and this is endless. The imagine where we can using and develop the AI for the logistics. So and we are open, and the researchers and the universities and the consultancy company to help for the companies, even small companies or big companies.
From my side, there's 25 seconds left, and I don't want to steal it from you. But I would say the takeaway is don't resist change. Embrace change, welcome change, and don't be fearful. It will change your life. Sometimes it's shocking at how much change it happens in your life. Yeah, if I look back 33 years ago, I wasn't that keen on a mobile phone. If you say to me now, I check my usage, it's 6 hours a day. It's, and I'm completely addicted, and I need it. Some of that time is wasted, but most of it's.
You have a huge battery.
So, and if I look at Rotterdam, Next Logic is a project where only 65% of our barge operators are on board. There's 35% are resisting. Yeah, they're resisting. And if they were to get on board, it would be an even better product. Yeah, so that's the reality. So there is human resistance, and it's something which we need to overcome. And I think technology, you can't turn technology back. You can't uninvent the nuclear bomb. You can't uninvent the mobile phone. These things have to come into our lives and be embraced and optimized. So that's my message.
Anissa, we started from you, we finished with you.
Just very quickly. So let's try and stay curious but realistic. Yeah, so in all AI projects and all topics, it's not a solution for everything. So try to be really strict. Let's try not to reinvent things that might already be somewhere. So let's try more to reuse and to put people together. So that's the next message. Let's do it together. I've learned today that Port of Rotterdam is a very good partner for those kind of projects. We're also very open to have those kind of collaborational projects, because that's where the benefit is. And I think there are a lot more in that room that couldn't speak up today. So let's try and do it together, and let's reshape the future all together. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.